Hello friends, it's SecretDoorGaming. I'm playing a visual novel called Ardency, Heart of the Rebellion, and it's a fantasy RPG kind of visual novel, and it's got romance in it, and elves. So let's start the game. What's your name, Ranger? My heart was racing. I tried to center my focus on my surroundings. Ooh, look at you running. Music is a little bit loud, so I'm going to turn it down a bit. Oh, I can hear your footsteps in the background. That's kind of cool. I had been tracking for quite a while, following marks and signs left by the other rangers. We were getting close. This chase had been on for a few hours now. Before I lost my sharp wit, I found a clearing in the trees to reassess the situation. There was a slow-moving river before me. Besides the sound of water sloshing against the rocks in the gentle breeze, the forest ahead was silent. I remember when I was a new recruit to the Rangers. My first time as a solo tracker was awful and scary. Being alone in the woods used to be my worst nightmare. Now it was my bread and butter, the main reason I got up and went through the day. Nothing was better than getting to exercise both my mind and body, running through the forest. A subtle change in the air pulled me back to reality, and away from losing myself to nostalgic thoughts. The wind ceased blowing long enough for me to hear the shrill cry of a bird. An average person would just assume it was a hawk diving for prey out in the forest, but I knew better. My leader used several animal noises to help us on the ground navigate through scouting missions in the woods. Artie's hawk call meant they were heading southwest. His plan of scouting ahead and keeping watch worked. They fell right into a trap in line of sight. I spun on my heel and darted in the correct direction. A determined grin plastered across my face. My favorite part of my job was always the chase. Although the woods looked almost identical to the untrained eye, I knew I was heading in the right direction at this point. Very rarely was the man known as the kingdom's prince and the ranger's captain wrong. Twigs and branches snapped under my boots as I bolted. Although I was nimble on my feet, I had been chastened by Artie a few times in the past for being loud and reckless once I locked onto my target's trail. A flash from the treetops caught ahead of my eye. That's cool. I watched for a few more brief seconds as I flew across the soft earth. I also just want to mention to everyone that this is actually, this is a demo, so I'm sorry to deflate anybody's expectations, but it looks like a really awesome game and I just wanted to play it, so let's keep going. Let's keep running. As I neared the tree, there were two more flashes. I nodded and kept moving, catching a quick glance at Mora, perched high in the branches. Oh, hello, Mora. Mora always looks so bored on missions, as if this was child's play, which for someone as intelligent as her, it probably was. It's kind of interesting that she's wearing, she's got medieval outfit. Not really a ranger outfit, though. And it's more like a bar wench. Yet she's got modern glasses and hairdo and lipstick. And perfectly manicured brows. And even nail polish. Interesting. Of course, this is a fantasy game, folks. She was verifying our targets were ahead. She was never one to fight hand to hand, so spywork and stealth fit her style more. The battle was always left for one of the other rangers like me. I felt my breath start to go tight in my throat from exertion. I pushed on, ignoring the burning of my calves that was beginning to build. deep footprints were spread in the mud as I continued. They looked fresh. The wet soil was still sliding back down into place. Judging by the number of prints, I might have to call for backup. I nearly skidded to a stop as I bursted through the bush and clearing, and my attention to the footprints faltered. I was expected to be greeted by a group ready to fight, but instead it was an utterly empty field. That's not a good thing. You're trapped. All that was there was the other part of the river I ran into earlier. Something felt off. You're supposed to, detect these things. This is a trap, or get out of there. Complete silence fell over me like a suffocating blanket. Artie and Mora were always on point with direction. There was no way they were wrong. Did I somehow get lost? I clenched my jaw, anger at myself already building up. There's no room for mistakes as a ranger, and I can't afford to make one now. A sickening feeling hit my gut when I heard a twig snap to my left. I flipped around and stumbled backwards before regaining my footing in the slippery grass. I stupidly let my guard down, and as a ranger, you never let your guard down, especially when tracking. I got too caught up in my self-pity. A group of elves slid down from the treetops. One was walking toward me from behind a large oak tree. Her steps were almost silent except for the crisp snaps of twigs. It was like each movement was a threat towards me.
Hunter becoming the hunted, aye.
The large elf woman taunted me. She flipped a dagger in her hand as she began to circle me like a shark. If I choose this one, only one of us is walking out of here. Am I gonna die? That's the end of me. That's the end of Celine. I always die early in the games. I always choose the wrong path. You know why I'm here. You know I'm here, so why don't you put down your weapon and let's talk?
I don't believe I will, girlie. A puny little thing like you is not much of a threat to a band of highly trained elves.
I'm not so puny. I scanned my opponents. Actually, I am kind of puny. I had to make a plan to either fight them or get out of there fast. Oh, Celine, you're so stupid. Why would you, run away from all your, buddies? Or run alone? Besides the woman confronting me, who seemed to be the leader of this small band of elves, there were 3 men and another woman who looked to be middle-aged, yet still built like a fighter. How in the world are you going to get out of this, Celine?
This one should be fun, Lindra. She's shaking in her boots.
One of the other elves, standing by the tree line, quietly mocked me to his leader. I took a deep breath and planted my feet deep into the ground, centering myself. I've been in tighter spots alone before. I could figure this out. How are you going to do that? Unless you're a samurai. Samurai ninja? As I analyzed my opponents, I locked eyes with one of the male elves. He looked to be around my age. He winked at me and smiled as if we weren't about to slaughter each other in cold blood. That was a bit amusing. That stopped me in my tracks. This was not something that happened too often. Look at his sleeve. He's got or is that a tattoo on his arm? Interesting. I snickered to myself, amused by this strange man's antics. It's kind of funny that you're flirting. You're flirting with an elf and you're about to be slaughtered. It's wink wink. You want to go for I don't know. What do elves drink? Go for a drink, your buddies can hang out. We held eye contact for a beat longer and I shot back a wink of my own. Oh, maybe he's a little bit more higher up than I think. Too bad one of us would probably be dead in a matter of a few minutes. One of us is more like you, Celine. I steeled myself and ready to attack. Every fight began like a thunderstorm, an eerie sense of calm, then utter chaos in one sudden release. before the explosion of the fight began, a familiar grunt sounded from behind the butthole who was ridiculing me earlier as he was pushed to the ground.
Glad you waited for me to start this party.
Celine. Ooh, the blunt side of an axe cracked across the skull of the fallen elf. That familiar voice, oh, now he looks angry. That familiar voice and an axe was a huge relief. I'd recognize both anywhere. Nice to see you, Claudine. Thanks for saving my butt. Oh man, look at him. Oh. The elf went limp on the ground, laying at my childhood best friend's feet. Wow, he's big. You don't mess with him. He easily stepped over him and began swinging at the other elves who had sprung into action as soon as their friends slumped into the grass. Claudine made sure to leave a clearing for me to make my way over to him. His large stature was always helpful on the battlefield. I slid past several blows and pressed my back to Claudine's. My dagger was already in my hands, slashing and slicing our attackers as he swung his axe, pummeling our enemies. You made it just in time. It was looking a bit dicey there for a moment until you arrived. I shouted over the chaos, chatting with my best friend. You're chatting away as they're fighting. You're like, yada yada yada, wanna go for coffee after, yada yada yada. I just gotta kill this person here.
Been taking care of you since we were kids! Not gonna change now!
I like the voice acting. He spoke between blows. As we fended off the elves, I noticed the winking male from earlier slip away. Oh, he's a coward now. Coward. I elbowed Claudine's sign to pull his attention to me. We've got a runner. Coward. Go, I've got this. I left him with a nod and patted his shoulder as I raced into what would be the second chase of the day. My target was now this escapee. Thorns tore at my knees and latched onto my pant legs unrelentingly. I could see a head of bright blonde hair bobbing and weaving straight ahead of me. If it weren't for all the running I had just done before, I usually would have caught up to him by now. As he kept trying to evade me, he looked back and had the audacity to stick his tongue out at me as if we were playing a game of children's tag. His immaturity became his downfall quickly, though. I faltered for a second as I watched a large tree root catch his foot and send him crashing to the ground. Knowing how agile elves were, I didn't want to miss my chance. Look at him, he's like, oh, you gonna bed me? Hey, good looking. What's cooking? And yet he's got a knife against his throat. I leapt through the air, landing on top of him with my dagger pinned to his throat.
Damn, all that running really put some good legs on you over the years, huh?
Do you know me? His one free hand placed itself on top of my thigh. Oh. Like he knows he's gonna, like, oh my goodness, he's like such a, you know, lady killer. Is he wearing gloves or is that a shirt? I can't tell what that is, or tattoos. What should I say? Hands off, you perv. Thanks, but now's not the time. Please don't touch me. Hands off. I pressed my knife against his throat harder, watching the skin bend slightly beneath it. Take your hand off of me before I slice it off. He just kept on looking up at me as if I wasn't really threatening him. I just sighed. Some people were too dumb to realize when they were in danger. He is pretty stupid. Thinks I'm gonna fall for his good looks. I leaned back, still keeping him pinned beneath me. He seemed to not want to put up a fight, so I slid my dagger back into my belt loop. He finally removed his damn hand from my leg at this point. Now, we're gonna sit right here and wait for my friends to join us. It shouldn't take them too long to clear out your little band of buddies. Oh, and maybe he's the target. I looked around us, noticing we ran into a whole new part of the forest. His gaze drifted away as he shrugged casually. Wow, that's heartless. Never cared much for them anyway. Lindra was a you know, I don't like to swear, was a dog of a control freak. His dismissive tone about the other elves only made me more suspicious of him. I reached into my carrying pouch on my hip and pulled out a length of rope. I'm gonna get off of you and tie you up. Don't even think about running.
Ooh, kinky.
Oh my goodness, dude. His flirtatious confidence once again got under my skin and irritated me so much. But at the same time, I had never met another elf that responded in such a casual and witty way. Truth be told, most of the time I didn't take elves hostage, and by order of the king we would kill them on sight. Oh, that's not very nice. At least that's what I had done for every patrol I had been on until now. My hands began to sweat in my gloves. Today has been more exhausting than usual. I had no idea how to respond to his little quips. There was serious business I need to conduct instead of flirting with my prisoner. He looked a bit crestfallen that I didn't entertain his flirtations. Voices and footsteps increased in volume from the forest as my fellow rangers came up behind us. Artie greeted me with a nod. Oh, he's supposed to be the prince. Artie, this guy in the green. Claudine just smiled before grimacing at the elf sitting across from me. Luckily, the flirtatious man cooperated as I bound his wrists together. Well, hello there. The elf greeted my friends before I got a chance to brief them on the situation. You shush. You shush. You shush. Like I'm telling a little child. He's acting like a little child. He's like a little boy. I pressed my finger to his lips. He glanced between my hand and my face. I gave his cheek a condescending pat and looked back to my friends. Hey there, team. They smirked as they approached and surveyed the situation before them. Claudine squatted next to me and peered at the elfin man.
Ugly thing, aren't you, big boy?
You're so mean. That's my best friend. Yeah, maybe he's got a face only a mother could love, but still, he's my best friend. The elf taunted him. I'd like to punch this guy in the face. Claudine rolled his eyes. I knew the flirtatious nickname bothered him more than the insult. I sighed and patted Claudine's shoulder empathetically. The elf just smiled at us, knowing he was getting under at least Claudine's skin.
Piece of shit could use a gag.
He growled in annoyance, glancing between me and our captive. Maybe he's an orc or something, half orc. Well, Artie, what do you want to do with him? I know your dear old dad wanted us to capture at least one of them. Artie cringed at the mention of his father. Even though he was our crown prince, he distanced himself from royal duties any chance he could. Does Artie have one like blue eye and one kind of brown eye? Looks like that almost. We take him back to camp. Oh, Artie doesn't have a voice. Mora's got the information we need to interrogate this guy. I nodded and stood, grabbing the elf by one of his arms. I should grab him by his ear instead. You know, those big long ears? Grab him. Come here, you boy. You've done enough trouble. Claudine immediately gripped his other arm to make sure he really couldn't escape from us. Artie began barking off commands to the other rangers who met up with us as we walked back.
You know, Artie, I think I might be able to fashion a good gag out of some leaves and vines. Oh, my head's starting to hurt from all your jabbering. At least the elf doesn't shout non-stop.
The captive giggled to himself. He was clearly pleased there was no gag around, and Claudine didn't really care to fashion one for a prisoner. Claudine smiled, challenging Artie to argue with him. Claudine was easily irritated, especially by Artie. Nobody knew or understood why they had such a strong feud. Considering I was best friends with Claudine and very fond of Artie, I was usually the one who had to shut things down before they became too heated.
Could be those big horns weighing you down, Claudine.
Artie responded in short, clipped words. Oh, he does have a voice. The air began to grow in its usual tenseness that it had whenever the two men were around each other for too long.
Both of you are dumb and talk too much. Shut up.
Oh, I like Mora. She's got like spunk. Mora silenced them both as she read a detailed map and walked behind the rest of us. I glanced back. I wonder if Mora's sister to Artie. She's got the same color eyes almost. I glanced back at her. I hope you guys didn't hear that motorcycle outside. It's very loud where I live. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I glanced back at her, thankful she was the one to get them to stop this time. Smile at Mora, wink at Mora. Stop pissing Mora off. Next one to piss Mora off gets thrown into the nearest river. All the men shuddered around me, even the captive. I knew Mora was amused without even looking at her, but the cackle of female laughter behind me only confirmed my assumption. I don't know, I'm kind of puny, so how can I throw these men in the river? We moved through the forest with no issues. Our prisoner was more than willing to work with us and behave. That was a relief. I was exhausted after the events of today, and dealing with a horny elf? Horny elf? Wasn't my favorite thing to do. Claudine is the one who's horny. Get it? Horny? He's got horns on his head? Oh, my jokes are terrible. Celine, can you come here for a moment? I believe Claudine can handle one elf by himself. Oh, these guys are so, irritated with each other. Claudine growled deeply in his throat, irritated that Artie was pulling me from our small conversation. I gave him a sympathetic smile and jogged up to Artie at the front of our group. What's up? Considering you captured him alone. He tilted his head towards the prisoner. I just wanted a quick one-on-one with you before we arrived back at camp. Sure, makes sense. He smiled at me. His reaction was always the same when I cooperated with him, as if he didn't believe I'd do what he'd ask, but appreciative nonetheless. Perhaps it was because Claudine always butted heads with him over every command and decision, so he only expected the same from the Masakoi's friend. Is that what he's called, a Masakoi? Like a koi fish? Although he and my lifelong best friend didn't get along, Artie was always kind, caring, and respectful of everyone else. Plus, he was handsome to boot. Ooh, Celine. The rest of the elves ended up in the ground, thanks to your big brute. Oh, that's kind of sad. I don't like killing people. He rolled his eyes, looking quickly to Claudine. Yeah, they had me surrounded and he swooped in at the last minute. Really saved my hide. So I've heard. Oh, he does have one blue eye and one brown eye. He sounded unconvinced. That's so cool. I always wish I had two different color eyes. This one we got through, the blonde male. Bit suspicious he was the only one to run off. What do you think? Yeah, he's a coward. That's what I think. Who cares? He's a coward. He was probably scared. I'm not that worried about it. At least he's hot. Oh my goodness, Celine. Who cares? He's a coward. He was probably scared. He may have been scared. He doesn't seem to be a fighter, so maybe the battle was too much for him. That could be the case. He's a bit smaller than most elves we fight. He smiled at me in appreciation. I think he's actually the prince. Maybe a prince, probably? That's what I'm thinking. Glad that we seem to be on the same page. No matter the circumstances, we need to keep a close eye on him. Something about him just doesn't sit right with me. He did say he didn't really care about his cohorts. This new piece of information clearly piqued Artie's interest. Oh, really? A beat of silence passed as he thought to himself. We need to be even more cautious. What man abandons his team like that so willingly? Jerk of a coward. He probably has his own agenda. What that is, though, I'm not sure. Whatever it is, he's gonna tell us. We'll get it out of him, or maybe he's a thief or a criminal. Who knows? Let's not speculate. He may have his reasons. I think there's more to this story than you know. Usually I say he's just a man with no honor, but I think it's more than that. Not everyone follows such a strong moral compass like you, Art. He blushed and rolled his eyes. Aww, he's a good guy. He fights for honor and justice and truth. Honor or not, we have to dig deeper. I'm sure you're happy to assist in getting to know our prisoner. No, I don't. I don't really want to get to know him at all. He's a perv. You know I never turned out making new friends. Ha ha ha. Just make sure to get the information without letting him distract you, Celine. Yeah, don't worry about it, Cap. I'll get everything set up when we get back to camp so we can have a nice chat with our new friend. Sounds like a plan to me. You're free to return to your original position. He ended our conversation there. I guess I provided whatever information he was looking for. Stay with Artie? I like Artie. I kind of like him. Return to Claudine. Let's check on Mara. But Mara's so much fun. I don't want to talk to the captive. He sounds like a jerk. And, check on Mara. Let's check on Mara. I like her. Thanks. I think I'll go and check in with Mara. I appreciate your efforts to check in with the other rangers. She's a quiet one. Yeah, when she's not telling you and Claudine to shut your mouths. We both chuckled. Go on, see how she's doing. I gave him a final smile and nod and meandered towards the back of the group where Mara was. She's a fireball. I like her. I found her alone, deep in thought. She looked to be scanning a map in her hand. She was lost in her own world. Hey, Moy. She kept reading, seemed to be ignoring my presence entirely. Gently try to get her attention, tease her, take the map from her. I'll just be gentle. I didn't want to scare her and accidentally end up with a dagger in my throat, so I knew I had to make my presence known quickly. Ahem, sorry to interrupt, but what are you up to? She finally realized I had been walking beside her for at least 2 minutes already.
Sorry, I didn't hear your approach. I was just studying this map. It has all the locations we think might be in danger.
Danger from what?
Elves, bandits, trolls, anything really.
I did some research and was just reviewing the map and the location of where you got ambushed by those elves earlier. I will always appreciate how hard you work, Moy. Thank you. At least someone in this damn company has half a brain. We giggled together for a moment until some of the lower ranked rangers began to look back at us.
So, how can I help you?
Just felt like talking to you, see how you're doing. Your signals were perfect as usual today.
No room for error. You know that.
She flashed a small grin at me. She usually was so serious, especially around the men. But with just the two of us, she always was a delight to talk to. You're the perfect ranger. I'll have to learn from you. You should take a break sometimes. I'll have to learn from you. I'm going to have to take a few notes from you. Every time I see you, you're so absorbed in your work. And there is a good reason for that, Celine. I know. You told me 1,000,000 times the only way to be successful is to work hard and never stop. Oh, she's one of those. But you should also have a little fun along the way, too. I winked at her and she blushed, looking away.
Short breaks do help prevent burnout.
Yep. She ended our conversation there. We fell into a comfortable silence as we made our way through the woods. We spent hours trekking through the forest. A foreboding silence fell over us as we walked the last mile back to the campsite. It was like the calm before a storm. Little did I know, everything was about to change for my friends and I. Oh, the demo is over. Oh, and I was getting so into it. It's just, piqued my interest now. And just leave me hanging like that? Oh. Oh, painful. Oh, so painful. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, folks. That was the demo of Ardency, Heart of the Rebellion. I really can't wait till this game is finished, and seems the developer's still working on it. So if you want to try this demo out yourself in the different conversations, please download it below. I've left the link below. And please smack that like button if you enjoy my playthroughs, and subscribe to SecretDoorGaming. Thanks again, and have a great evening.